Giffen.
All right, welcome back everybody to the afternoon session of this meeting of the Central Otago District Council. I take us to page 504, item 22 to 910, the pecuniary interests register, and that is yours, Wayne.
Okay, so local government pecuniary interest register amendment act 2022 is coming into force on the 20th of November, and it is going to require a register of pecuniary interests to be set up for elected members and then be placed on the website for public inspection. Elected members will be required to submit their pecuniary interests once a year, and it's up to them, each individual member, to make sure that their paperwork is submitted and it is accurate. The purpose of today's report is just to let you know that this is happening, and it's going to be an ongoing thing. And we're planning a workshop for members and the community boards, and also at the December council meeting, to take you through the paperwork. And well, it's not onerous paperwork; it's a couple of pages. The example that I've seen. You know, we're concerned about, obviously, about members' privacy, and so in the register it'll be a very general thing, quite a lot like central government one. So instead of saying I own a house, you know, sort of member X owns a house at like 1 Dunlawing Street, Alexandra, it'll just say family home Alexandra or whatever. Yeah, and then it applies to all elected members, but it will not apply to, well, there's only one actually, independent chair of, so Linda won't apply to Linda, but it will do everybody else.
We'll make a declaration even if it's declaring nothing.
It is, yes. So you'll see on page 505, the dates each year of the triennium that this would need to be returned. And the first one is, of course, clear as mud, because it all depends on when you know, the official results were declared. However, for 2023, it will be Sunday, the 12th of February. It's due. All right, but like I say, I'll be running a bit of a workshop to go through it with members and also community.
Can't see there being need for a great deal of discussion. That's what it is.
All
A, B, C, and D. Neil will move that, and Cheryl will second it. Any discussion? All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you, Wayne. Now, the resident survey, which is Jen. Jen, come on up. Oh, and Paula.
That's very good.
I've got Jen on the list here. Paula. And Paula. Kia ora koutou.
It's a beautiful castle.
Right, the floor is yours.
Thank you. So it's just an opportunity to take you through some of the key points from the Residents' Opinion Survey 2022. Just a quick overview or a refresher for those who've been before and those who are new. A resident survey is an annual survey to measure community view of the services that council provides. It also helps to identify current issues and also priorities for the year. It's an online survey. We do have hard copies available at service centres and libraries for those who are not online. But essentially it's a self-selecting survey, so respondents choose to complete it off their own bat rather than to do it. This is the 7th year that we've run the survey online, and the first year using a new consultation system. The survey questions all remain the same, even though it was in the new system, and this is for consistency really, just so we can keep an eye on trends in the data that we. So the response rate for this year was lower than usual. We had 153 people complete the survey. On average, in the past, we've been closer to 600. So it is lower. It is lower than usual. And I've touched on a couple of those potential reasons for this. It is just worth keeping in mind the lower rate this week. So, some of the demographics, the sample, a change, I suppose, proportionately more men completed the survey in 2022 than in previous years. And it's also worth noting that Vincent and Maniatoto wards were overrepresented in the sample, and Cromwell and Teviot were underrepresented. And in fact, Teviot just made up 5% of the sample. So quite typical of that community. We find it harder to engage with them by surveys, but we do have better results face to face and through workshops and things. Over the last couple of years, that's been fun. This is probably very difficult. Oh, it's not too bad to see on the screen, but it is on page 507 of your agenda. So in the survey, respondents are asked to indicate which services and amenities that they have used in the last year, and then to indicate whether or not they are satisfied with them. Generally, satisfaction it's remained pretty consistent with our 2021 results. We do have a couple of dips, resource consents and waste minimisation in particular, but again, we have had very low responses to those two services, so it's just worth keeping that in mind. So overall, satisfaction has remained pretty consistent, if not just marginally lower than in 2021. Issues and problems with services and amenities. So we've had 46% of respondents say that they have experienced an issue or a problem. This is up slightly from 38% in 2021. Again, this is relatively typical of a self-selecting survey where respondents are quite keen to let us know what areas we can improve rather than let us know what we're doing really well. So 54% of people not experiencing an issue or problem as a predictive result. Priorities. Respondents are asked to select up to four priorities that they think council should focus on in the coming year. The top three have remained fairly consistent over the past 4 years. So water supply, community development and footpaths, and water supply just continues to be number one across the board. It's just worth noting here, we did make a change to the wording. We've changed community planning to community development, and this was just to avoid any confusion between community planning and planning. This didn't actually have any impact on results at all, so it seems the community do understand what we mean by community planning.
Can I make the observation that occurs to me that the one that's always top is water supply, and then the rest are almost equal, but there's nothing in the next,
So,
even down to 10th equal 11% to 19%, just sort of throw a blanket over that lot. And the sample size just makes it even.
yeah,
Sample size hasn't reflected the change.
Yeah, and it's pretty reflective, I think, year on year, is that we get water and then the rest.
yeah, that's
maybe that will change come April next year.
I'd like to think so.
What's going to happen then?
So water supplies, beeline.
So this priority by ward,
So it's not tasting.
It's the same wording.
It's interesting, isn't it?
it's nothing too surprising here, really. I think, perhaps the only thing that is number 2 for Teddy Valley being car parks. But it's
Yes.
From the TV.
very small samples.
What's the too many down there?
Yes, so it's for 2 people on the person.
I thought that was really odd.
I'm surprised not to see car parks there for Cromwell, given the way some Cromwell people talk about the impossibility of getting a car park within 5 kilometres
Yeah.
of the town centre, which tends to indicate that that might be a very vocal minority.
So this group is showing satisfaction with council's efforts on the priority issues from the previous year. I think looking at this graph, the most interesting thing is really the number of people who are selecting unsure and don't know. And I think,
Being honest.
yeah, I think this sort of suggests that, you know, there could be an opportunity to educate our community more about what we're doing in each of our business areas, keep them regularly and probably better informed on what we're up to, and it's something that its communication team focus on. So this is elected member performance. This is for the period up to 30 June. Really similar results to 2021. Down a bit, 68% satisfaction district-wide, but across the board, they're very consistent responses to 2021.
And other factors to take into account is the things that are happening nationally in Three Waters and other things that impact on people's.
I would have thought that those numbers satisfied would correlate to the percentage of people that voted.
Not necessarily, it actually correlated to the people who are dissatisfied, so the satisfied ones.
Ah, well,
I don't know, I mean,
yeah.
you can equally argue that, except for you're all back, so. We're all back.
And the community board, similar again, very consistent result. It was 65% satisfied in 2021.
I don't Sally, clean up that time.
Yeah.
You find those 3 people, Sally? Oh, no, no, the same ones about the car park, yes.
But they were really the key things that I wanted to note for your attention today. The data is used in our annual report for our customer satisfaction measures, and it also provides some insight for staff for areas. So I think this survey and the responses has raised a few questions for me around the process that we go through to gather this data. It needs to be timely and relevant for staff and for you guys. And it needs to be easy and relevant for people to complete. So just
Questions or other comments, Tamer?
Are you able to access how many people thought, oh, I'll do that, and then got to the page where they had to sign up and then abandoned the process? Can you see that data?
No, we can't see that. I guess people who have, yeah, no, the short answer is no, I can't see that information, but I suppose those who have been willing enough to do it have gone through the process. So no, there's no way.
And I
Question.
saw, I mean, it's not down a little bit, it is substantially less than previous years, which is a concern.
Yeah.
And then I saw the comment that that was the 7th survey in 6 months. So are we going to be using this process for next time, or what are the thoughts around how it could be done differently, or?
You mean using the same platform potentially?
Yeah,
Yes, I think registration is probably, has probably been a bit of a barrier this time round. We did do the speed limit bylaw and people did have to register for that submission process, and we had quite a good response. I think probably if we were going to continue with the same, on the same platform and asking the same survey questions in the same way, we would choose not to let people to register this time and just see what happens.
I think I've got an issue with anonymity when you potentially want to criticise something. You don't want your name associated with the criticism. That's why something which is anonymous, even though this is anonymous. But your average Joe, when they're doing that, going, I'm not putting a name and age and demographic in there because they're going to identify who I am. You know, a simpler format which people start to, you know, like SurveyMonkey, which we see all the time. It's a lot more accessible to punters because they're doing those sort of things. You know, every time you make a purchase online now, you're getting customer feedback coming through, and it's a simplified, really simplified process, because frankly, on those numbers, that information could be so easily skewed.
Sounds good.
Perhaps I could just reflect too that this is a long-standing survey and this is a significant decrease in numbers.
Yeah.
It's not to suggest the survey itself hasn't been a good platform. Maybe the other things we've picked around some of the things we've acquired of our community in recent times. To Jen's point, 7 surveys in 6 months, a lot. We know some people are a bit, and we've talked about that at council last term about understanding what the mandate of the council is and what is the best ways of engagement, rather than just thinking, oh, do we just do a survey or just do a media stuff.
If I could add just another wee point, reasons why we have looked to a different survey platform. Some other criticisms that we've had about using platforms like SurveyMonkey, because longer surveys you can't save and come back. Once you, and it's such a long survey, we were criticised because people couldn't copy data. So we're trying to find, we just try, if we don't try, we're never going to learn, and we probably will continue to try with different length of surveys and things. So yeah, it's trying to find something that fits for certain situations.
Is there a way of doing that where people that have started, or there's some parts that are relevant to them, they don't want to fill the whole thing in, you could part complete? It's part saved.
Yes, and with this customer asked if they're not fully completed.
It doesn't register, yes.
Yes, so it has to be a whole piece of data for us to be able to use it, and that's been the methodology we asked, to keep it consistent because of thing. So we thought with finding with this platform, at least it might mitigate that issue, but just with the lots of surveys and that barrier of registering it.
Right. Thank you. Would somebody like to move the report be received? Thank you, Martin. Seconded Tamer. Further discussion? All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you very much. Gina Paula.
The woman here just me.
It is warm in here. Yeah.
We found out initially that the heaters are on, so we're getting it.
Yeah. The fact the heaters have been on in the morning has been fixed. So, but the aircon should be on, but it's not a lot happening, no. No, it's
I'll turn it down.
coming until, oh, I turned it down as well, so. Wonder if it's even on. Standing here. We could open the window, if people wish. That would be awfully helpful. Donna and Susan, welcome. The floor is yours. Financial report, page 529. Oh yeah, that's much better to read.
So, today I'm going to read the September 2022 results. So overall, we have a favourable operating variance. The favourable operating income variance of 1.2 is driven by the development and reserve contributions. And this is just a timing thing, as we had to accrue a few last financial year due to the budget that sign off. So there will day for the year. This is offset by the grants and subsidies and also the use fees and charges. The unfavourable grants and subsidies variance is mainly due to the water subsidies. About 6,000, and this is due to the timing of the budget and also the operating work program, which generally over the stable months of the year. This has been offset by state funding that has been carried from the prior year of 1,000. The use of fees and charges are unfavourable due to the timing of the water sales. This is predominantly the first round is sent out in October, November invoicing. Budget is split out in months. So we'll work to jiggle this to the favourable operating expenditure variance is 700,000, and this is driven by the cost of sales budget. The cost of sales budgets are directly linked to the council subdivisions and at the same time being sales. Recent there have been none for this year, but there will be some. Out this 1 million unspent, there have been unfavourable variance of 250,000. This is driven by both favourable and unfavourable variances. The contracts budget is unfavourable mainly due to 3 waters operating expenses. This can be attributed to emergency works carried out in July. But in event there is some emergency works funding those committed that. There's also been an increase in service increase. Grants are unfavourable, and this is predominantly due to the grant of 500,000. This was in the last annual meeting, as well as the rate 6 million favourable due to property being in July. So capital expenditure, we have a total of 12% of the full year's revised capital. There is a mixture of statuses for these projects. As we're within the first quarter, it's quite difficult to determine whether they will not, as we project stated. I'd just also like to point out that in the table for the capital expenditure, we have had to admit the actual annual plan budgets as we have some glitch which copies into, and it's now being fixed in which we come into. So the internal loans, we have a forecast closing balance of 414 for 30 June. And the external loans owed to the council, we have opening balance of 134,000, and as of September, we have so got unaudited reserves at this stage as we so we have a closing reserve balance from 30 June 2022 of 1,000 in surplus. The balance of district-wide reserves has a deficit of $8 million. Taking into account the unaudited the annual plan transfer between and the carry forwards and it is predicted that we're closing expected to end the financial year with a closing deficit of 32 million. This compares with our annual plan deficit of.
Hey, councillors, questions, comments?
just the last one first, that deficit of only being 32 against 45, I'm assuming that's just timing from the major projects.
I believe so, yes.
And I have one more.
Please.
And what you may not answer this, but the Alexandra Town Centre lines, internal lines, they go back 100 years, don't they, Mr. That?
They do go back and work.
Quite. Yeah, just about.
I don't have the data.
They're pretty historic. They're,
The first one, that's his.
The last one was even the cobblestones, wasn't it?
Cobblestone,
yeah, it's
it's
the 90s, it's the 90s.
Yeah, it's all nineties, yeah.
Just looking at it, must have been a very generous loan repayment rate.
Mm.
They're paying plenty of interest.
For myself, on page 535, there's books of capital expenditure on the Cromwell Administration Buildings projects. I'm just unclear as to what work because I recall we were going to bold them in the original idea in the LTP, and then we said we weren't. And I thought we were kind of sitting back, waiting, trying to figure out what we're going to do with it as part of the Cromwell Mall upgrade. So I'm just wondering what that is.
So I have talked with the property manager, and it's for the Cromwell Library and the Service Centres, part of the Cromwell Master Plan project. This is been told it's for new facilities or extended facilities without the demolition of the current buildings. Apparently there is a workshop coming up shortly on the master plan, and it will be discussed further at the in November and council meeting.
So it's basically clean. Thank you. And the question on the camp fees. So this is on page 535, Parks and Recreation. Camp fees are down 43 Ks, admission 17 Ks, and higher 16 Ks. That is why.
So a little bit of investigation is something that hasn't been removed from the LTP 3 and it's carried forward into this plan. So it's to do with the Clyde Recreational Reserve, and there's still some camping income here in the budget line that would have been received when it was run by committee. So unfortunately that wasn't removed completely, and it will be adjusted. So that will stay there and there's much.
So how long have we had the manager in place under release? It would be at least 2 years, wouldn't it? Probably not asking the wrong people. It would be. It'd have to be.
2 years, because it
If not
wasn't in the
three.
last 2.
Okay. Interesting. Thank you. Any other questions, folks? Right, on that basis, I'll move that the report be received, and Tony will second that. Any further discussion? All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye, against. Thank you very much. All right, that brings me to my very own report on page 539, which is quite a lengthy mayoral report given us the start of the triennium, so I'm sure you've all read and hung on every word of it. So I'll just paraphrase it. Firstly, just commenting on just grateful to have a solid team back and our 2 new councillors, and I think we're in for a fantastic 3 years together. Looking back over the 6 years I've been sitting at the head of the table, we've had 5,500 people, basically 25% growth rate move into the district, and that's just come out in figures in the last couple of weeks, which I think is staggering. And as I've put there, you know, there's more people who've moved here since lived in Alexandra when I became here. That's really remarkable, and I think a credit to the organisation that under that sort of growth pressure, crept at times, it hasn't broken. Extremely well done. We've met a lot of the requirements for infrastructure through the master plan and Cromwell Vincent Spatial Plan Change 19, trying to get the densification up rather than the spread out. Currently got the Cheviot Spatial Plan underway, because we don't want the increase in population to destroy what it is that makes people want to come here for. And we've also put in the biggest infrastructure build that we've ever seen in the area outside of probably the Clyde Dam, and certainly the biggest that this council's ever undertaken. And I've listed all of those there, and when you put them all in one place, there has been a hell of a lot going on over the 6 years, and you add into that the effects of pandemic, the pandemic response, the after effects, inflation levels like you've never seen, possible to get staff both in contractors and in here, it's very difficult. So I think we're performing well at a national level. We've got great penetration, CEOs holding the role of president of Taituara, which gives great impact into Wellington and being able to hear what's happening from up there, and not sitting on one ministerial working group, the other one having shut down. Chaired the Otago Mayoral Forum and have just now been appointed to the LGNZ National Council for the Lower South Island. So for 0.5% of the population, we've got some really good connections into Wellington. I talk about the reforms there, probably just for noting where they sit and where they're going. Future for local government, we've already discussed today, but it's absolutely massive. And then when you look at further uncertainty, we have potential for Lake Onslow and or Central Otago International Airport to come really start to get some clarity on whether those are going to happen. And both could be turning soil within the next 3 years, although that might be a little bit ambitious, but if they've got the green light, they'll certainly be having an impact even within that time. We've got our bridge strategy that I see as a really important focus on us in the next long-term plan. It's not going to be cheap, getting those bridges sorted into the future. We've just got so many of them that are reaching end of life. Museum strategy too, and our role in affordable housing are all priorities to me as I lead the council into the long-term plan. We've also got the representation review, which is actually quite a big deal, and we're going to have to start thinking about that sooner rather than later. For those who weren't here, the last one we had was 6 years ago, and that was where the Alexandra and Ernst Manuhira Care Awards were obviated, and we just went up with the Vincent Ward. We raised the number of councillors in Cromwell by 1. I actually think we should be considering having a brave discussion about whether we'd be served by a smaller council. We will also have almost certainly under the local government electoral legislation bill that's currently at the select committee stage, a requirement of compulsory consideration of specific Māori representation on councils and boards. I don't think that's going to be a challenging discussion for the community, but I think it's one that we should welcome. Yeah, as I've said, the LGA states that it's the role of the mayor to lead the territory's plans, including long-term plan and annual plan. And early stage, obviously, we've got to hear from the community, but I think we're needing to be looking at one of consolidation on the work that's been done and needs to be done to put the next council in the best position to lead the community from 2025 onwards, given the amount of uncertainty we have with the reforms, future for local government, and so forth. It's just my view, and obviously that's now we need to talk to the community movement. So I think it's going to be a fantastic 3 years. It's going to be challenging. I reflected on what I said this time 3 years ago, and almost all of it was wrong, because within a matter of weeks somebody got sick and Wuhan. So you don't know what you don't know. But that's my report. Happy for any questions, comments, clarification. Otherwise, I'm happy to move it and move on. Move it. Neil will second it. Brilliant. No argument. Great. Onwards. All those in favour? Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you. Governance report now on page 543. So we just move our way through these, and as we go, if there's anything people wish to raise, please do so. It starts off with the forward work program, which you'll find on page 544 and 555. Then we have the status reports, status updates. I did have a question on the first one, just in terms of the museum strategy, just when we may. Says the community museum strategy is now completed, staff are undertaking an investment strategy. When do you think we might head back on that?
So through the chair, we're just getting permission now, consultant agency to do the modelling, and that's the question around whether we move away from a ward-based model to a district model. I asked Alex earlier, we're still on track for 14th December. So that is our plan. If we don't quite get there 14th December, it'll be at the January council.
Excellent, thank you very much. Just going through page 548, 549, 552, 556, 57, 58, excuse me, 60, 61, Two.
Well, sorry.
Yep.
You're on 560. There's a number of submissions on the long-term 21-31 long-term plan that was resolved.
So that's page 561.
Well, actually, no, it starts back on page 222.
Oh, sorry, I see you. Yeah.
Yeah, some of them seem to relate to community boards and probably don't need to be on this list for the council, is what I'm saying. They relate to what the board's going to do and not much point in coming to us.
Yeah.
So there's no paper involved here, but it's just.
No, but it makes it easier
Yeah.
to see what.
So I just think someone should go through and say, it's the community board, if you, not the council. Come to council, we'll come back.
Any reason why not staff? Seems to make perfect sense.
So
Yeah,
it was.
but you're right, but the council decision, see, the next decision goes back to the board, so job done, tick, complete at a council level, there's nothing else, as far as I can read with those, there's nothing to be done here by council.
Have a think about it, mate. If you've got a compelling argument, come back.
Yeah, okay, very well.
Yeah, the benefit would be, in case, for oversight, in case something that you'd approved for Vincent and you could see that maybe it wasn't getting traction and maybe you had questions around it, so that would be the benefit of keeping it in there.
Here goes my example, then page 560, which is resolution 21.443, agrees the recommendation from the Manitoba Community Board request staff to consider the suggestion of filling the ice with water, add planning and create walkways and report back to the board. Tick. Not here. So, yeah, you're right, but you find a lot of them worded like that, and just don't see why they need to be here.
I think if we can work out a way to do things rather than add them, we'll.
Well, especially because I think that's complete tick.
Well, that's a very good example. It doesn't mean it applies to all of them.
Well, I think the majority.
Majority of them.
I believe, my view.
If you can have a look at that, staff, and
Yes.
There's a headache, let us know. That's something we haven't missed on the run. 565, 66, 567, 568. I did wonder on 568, the relationship with Okaha says a prioritised work program for the year has been agreed. Can that be closed therefore? Stated?
It's fine. We wouldn't close it until you say what the last action was.
Oh, okay, something else, and come back. Cool.
Sorry, that's.
Well, what is it you said we were going to see?
Well, if you want to close it, we'll typically you decide to close it once it's been here. Rather than not tell you the action and close it. If it
Yeah.
makes sense.
But it would get closed next week.
The next time it was closed.
Okay, cool, thank you. 570, 571, getting into a lot of closed ones, 572, 573. Got myself lost. 574, 75, 576, and that is the end of those. So I'll move that we receive those. I don't think we need to do anything much further at this stage with those. Anyone second that?
Second that.
Thank you, Sally. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye, against, carried. The date of our next meeting is the 14th of December, which I can let you know I won't be here, because my youngest will be graduating, so I'm going to be there. And then I will now move that for the reasons given on page 578, that we exclude the public. Would you second that, please? Thank you, Ian. All those in favour?
Aye.
Aye, against, carried. We'll just pause while that is undertaken.
Yeah, fun.